Hey, what's up, everyone? Good afternoon. Welcome to Johnny and Clyde, the Rocketman Big Book Study podcast. We're just two sober alcoholics reading and studying and discussing the big book together the way that Joe and Charlie did back in the day. So let's start with a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And now we're going to have Lindsay come in and do the set aside prayer for us. Come on in.
God, today help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery, so that I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help me see the truth.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, in 1973, Joe McHugh introduced Charlie P. as an AA speaker at an Al Anon convention. Joe and Charlie soon discovered that they both shared a love for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So they started traveling between their homes to discuss the big book. Before long, it became a regular event for them. Now, you see, Johnny and Clyde, we met in the Zoo Crew back in 2022. And we also discovered that we shared a love for the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And one day someone came to us and said, why don't you guys do a podcast? And so here we are with you guys today. We meet here every Sunday from 2 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time in this room. Please bring your big book and read along. And bring a pen and paper and take notes and even highlight what we all read here together. We are recording the audio so that you can share it. It is a podcast. You can find it on our website at thezooCrew.org. So the purpose of this big book study meeting is to help you when you're meeting with a prospect or what we might call a sponsee, or just talking about sobriety in general. See, we want you to be armed with the facts about yourself and the AA program, because we found that freedom from alcohol comes through taking the 12 steps and working with others. Page 15 of the 12 and 12 tells us exactly what the 12 steps are. The 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable a sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. How soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? We suggest that you purchase a copy of the big book for future use if you don't have one, because you might want to underline, highlight, and even take notes as we study together. Please order your literature from AA so that the money goes to Alcoholics Anonymous, and to ensure that you actually get a good copy. See, here in the original Zoo Crew, we are not advocating that you rush through the steps, but we suggest that you have a sense of urgency in taking the 12 steps and have them become a way of life sooner than later. Act as if this was a matter of life and death, because it actually is a matter of life or death. Once again, how soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? You could go to our website at thezooCrew.org to order a copy of the big book or read it online. The big book is our basic text, and it contains a full recipe on recovery. Now, it's impossible to find a loophole in the big book that excludes you from being a member of AA. So today we'll be picking up where we left off at. We're currently on page 86, and we're going to have Clyde come in and bring us up to speed before we start reading.
Yeah, thanks, Cuzin. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Clyde, and we're studying the directions here that Bill lays out for us. From the bottom of page 85 through the top of page 88 is the instructions for taking step 11. And so where we left off last week is what he does. He teaches us about prayer and meditation, which is talking and listening to our higher power. That is, remember that higher power that has restored us to sanity, and that is the core of our recovery, our higher power. This is how we communicate with our higher power. He's giving us detailed directions on how to do that. He tells us what to do in the morning, throughout the day, and in the evening. He gives us the full instructions, the full recipe here. And so where we left off last week was where we constructively review our day at the end of the day when we retire at night. And this is where we take the test. And the test is, you'll recall in step 10 on page 84, in that opening paragraph, it talks about we've entered the world of the spirit, and our function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And here's what we were supposed to be doing all day long as per the instructions for step 10. It says that we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. I'm on page 84. It says, when these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone. So that's how a recovered alcoholic conducts himself throughout the day. That's our new method, our new design for living. Now at the top of page 86, we're in step 11, and we're going to review how well we did accomplish those things during the day. And we read, when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. So tell me if this sounds familiar. This is step 11. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? And, what could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time, or were we thinking of what we could do for others? So we're just giving ourselves, we're going to take the test at night and see how well we did our 10th step during the day. So that's at night. Now we're going to wake up in the morning. It's a new day. And so how do we do step 11 on awakening? What do? We're in the middle of page 86, and we're going to get the directions now. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Going to stop right there. I was going to stop anyway, but come on in.
And what's up? I'm Jonathan, and I'm an alcoholic. And I just wanted to let anybody know, if they don't know, that these are questions that I can ask myself at the end of a day. These are actually questions. And if you get the Everything AA app, it's set up where it gives you a diary that you can keep, where you can actually answer these questions, yes or no, and make notes, and always look back at it to see, how have I improved, or how am I not improving in certain areas of my recovery, So these are actually questions that I can ask myself in order to help myself to see myself, each day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd like to just add on to what Cousin's talking about with these questions. For example, were we resentful? So an example of that is if my wife says something to me and I think she was rude, and I get upset, get mad at her real quick, but then I realize that, oh, wait a minute, you're being petty, don't take yourself so seriously. What are you thinking, Clyde? Just let it go and move on. That's not resentful. That's like the proper response of a recovered alcoholic. I shook it off. I got over it and moved on. Resentful would be if I get mad about it, stay mad about it, keep thinking about it. Then I'm not going to pass the test when I do my review at the end of the day. And same with it, it asks if I was afraid. Okay. So if something crops up and I get a little nervous about something, but I then resort to trusting God with it and realizing, hey, you know what? You don't really need to be afraid of this. Just do the right thing and trust God with the outcome. That's not being afraid. That's a normal. So it's okay to be a human being and have these feelings that we have. It's just a matter of how we deal with the feelings. That's what we're grading ourselves on this test, right? Okay. So A couple other points regarding on awakening. Let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Stopping right there. Because number one, it says on awakening, not an hour after I woke up and I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off, just on autopilot, going a million miles an hour. He's telling us, right away when you wake up, number one. Number two says, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. That means this next little 24-hour period. Let me think of it. It says, we consider our plans for the day. So I'm not future tripping. I'm not thinking about stuff, next week, next month, next year. It's like, okay, I just want to consult with my higher power. And I'm thinking about right away when I wake up, this 24-hour period. That's why you see on our chips, ODAAT, 1 day at a time. So it's a 24 hours at a time. It's how we recover. That's how we live our lives. It's a great, excellent tool to stay present and really participate in life. Cousin?
Well, since we're talking about on awakening and getting ready to go into prayer and meditation and stuff like that, I like to share something that that me and you actually experienced and found out. And it's in one of the most popular prayers, prayer that most AA meetings use, which is the Our Father, and how it lines up with this. And it actually says, "Our Father which art in heaven, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And then it says, "Give us this day." It doesn't talk about the next couple of weeks or the next month. It says, "Give us this day our daily need." Isn't that something? And it lines right up with this. On awakening, we think about what? The 24 hours ahead. Can I do that? Can I do that? I'm learning how to. That's never was easy for me to just think about the 24 hours ahead. I'm a 3-day thinker. 3-4 days into this thing, but I'm learning how to just think about the 24 hours ahead. Any questions or comments on what we're reading? These are instructions on what we can do. Everybody getting this?
Yeah, come on in, Mama Bear.
Yeah, they call it the Lord's Prayer, but it's actually a disciples' prayer. And that's what I love about this group. We end the meeting with that, and I take it very personal. But in there is a recipe on daily living. I mean, coming to these meetings for me is my daily bread. And so I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much for letting me share.
All right. Thank you, Loretta. We appreciate you. Okay, so now we got our focus right away when we get up in the morning. We got our focus on this day, okay? And it says, before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. So we're going to stop right there. Imagine that. Immediately when I wake up in the morning, you hear people say I hit my knees. And I do. I'm one of those guys. I hit my knees right away out of respect, out of reverence for God. And I let him know, I am here at your service today. I love you. Thank you, God, for me waking up and having this opportunity to enjoy another beautiful, awesome day of recovery. Thank you, God. On my knees. So that's right away. We get up and before we begin, like that's the first thing I do. And I ask God, I say, God, please direct my thinking. I want my will. I'm exchanging my will for God's will. I want to direct him to direct my thinking to the proper way, to his will. And his will is for me to not have self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. So this is where we get in. Asking God is prayer. That, you know, that's this step sought through prayer and meditation. Prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening. So everybody clear on that? It's pretty straightforward directions here. And it says, when I do this, under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance. Wow, imagine that. That means I can have assurance. I like assurance. I like it a lot. I don't like being uncertain and wavering and not sure. I like being sure. And if I'm seeking God's will and he's directing my thinking, I can have some assurance now. This is awesome. For after all, God gave us brains to use. Now I'm using my brain like I'm supposed to. I'm aligning it with God's thinking and God's will. See where we're going with this? It says our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Wow, what a blessing. So now
Hey, Clyde.
yes.
Hey, Clyde. You know that did you notice that it says that asking God that I be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. But it doesn't talk about alcohol.
No.
Because by this time the alcohol problem has been solved. You know?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And that happened on the previous page 85.
When do you think that it would say, when do you think that it would say, you know, according to me trying to figure stuff out, God help me not drink today. No, I don't have to do that. The drink problem has been solved as long as I stay in fit spiritual condition and, and stay in conscious contact with God. Isn't that something?
Yeah. Amen. So everybody clear on what we're doing?
Stop for a minute, Clyde. Clyde, stop for a minute right there. Now I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
And anybody could come in and answer and just be honest. Do you still wake up in the morning and ask God to help you stop drinking? I don't. I don't. Anybody? Let's talk about that. Be honest. I used to do it. I just and when I stopped doing it, I don't know. It just happened. Anybody can identify with that? I used to do it probably my first year and a half. Well, even first year or so, but after a while, I didn't even ask that anymore. Wow, what's that about? Wow, I'm just realizing this, sitting here reading this with you guys. I don't wake up and ask God to help me not to drink today. I ask him, help me not to be selfish, self-centered, dishonest, or afraid, or to get really pissed off. Because that's my downfall. I like to pout, right, Clyde? I like to pout. What do you guys think of that? Come on in. If you do, hey, it's okay. Let us know. You know, and if you don't, let us know. You know, we want to hear from you. I used to do it, and when I stopped doing it, I don't remember, but it just struck me that I don't do that anymore. I do something else. What about you, Clyde? You get up and ask God to help you not to drink today?
No, because you know, by this time sanity will have returned. That happened for me, you know, a long time ago. And you're right. I don't need to ask. That's a result. That's a promise that has come true as the result of following the directions and taking the steps in the big book. Then God took that. The desire to drink has been removed.
Yeah. I don't remember the last time that I did that. You know, I often hear that in meetings, you know, and it's just struck me today reading this with you guys. I was like, I don't remember the last time that I asked, you know, help me not to drink today. And I'm not trying to sound ungrateful or anything. Something happened that just wasn't in my talk in the morning anymore. Other things are in my talk, you know. Anyone
right.
else?
Yeah, James, Cowboy, come on in.
Hey, I'll call it name James or Cowboy. Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask, actually, you just our message and because I came in a minute or two late, I was trying to figure out what room to come to, but you just answered it. But yeah, I used to be selfish. I used to be self-centered. I used to be full of fear, and I still am to a certain extent, and ego, and poor pill for me. That's all about me, and it was all about me for a very, very long time. I went through I went through a lot of stuff growing up as a little kid and everything else, and I wanted to blame everybody else for my own problems. Long and short, that was everybody else's fault for my childhood, for the way I grew up, and for the way I ended up in my alcoholism and me ended up homeless and everything else. But then I had to realize that it's not all about me. And that's why I actually just got trained on service this last week. But I love doing service because it gets me out of my head and everything else. That other people have problems too, other people have issues too, long and short. But yeah, I love helping others and giving back and everything else. And it doesn't have to be about me anymore. It's a we program. It's not an I program. There's no I in the program anywhere. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, James. Thanks for coming in and sharing with us. Loretta, you want to come in and share?
Thank you, guys. Cousin John, I just love your laughter. It's a hearty, joyful laugh that is sincere. Anyway, Mama Bear is still an alcoholic, but yeah, that obsession God lifted from me almost 2 years ago, and I was on a pink cloud for a number of months. And I wasn't going to meetings at that time, but then when I started getting those urges, then that's when I started attending meetings. But yeah, no longer asking to lift up the because he already did it. So I just thank my higher power and to keep me sober and the fellowship of the meetings here. I need them on daily is my daily bread, at least one meeting a day. Thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out.
Thanks, Loretta. Sounds like God has directed your thinking into a meeting with us here. We're glad you're here. And Jody, for the timer, let's just do 90 seconds without a warning. When you hear the 90, when you can see the time displayed on the screen, and then just let them go the whole 90 seconds. Come on in, Maggie.
Can I speak?
Yes, you may, please.
I lost that desire, or I lost that and asking about drinking, and God keep me from drinking today. And I don't know when either, but I think it's because in down the road doing our steps has helped us in our changes, and that it just and we became more secure in our feelings and actions, that it just automatically went away. And I loved that pink cloud when I was on it. It doesn't, sometimes it doesn't last very long. I had 2 pink clouds because I had to go research. And anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Maggie. We're glad you're here. Yeah, cousin, what's up?
Yeah, and yes, so since we're talking about that, yeah, on back on page 85, it talks about just what we're talking about. And it says that we are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel that we have been placed into a position of neutrality, and we wake up safe and protected. We have not sworn it off. Instead, the problem has been, I think the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor afraid. That is not what we say, but this is our experience. This is what we have lived. That is how we react. So as long as we stay in fit spiritual condition, wow. Here we are. We land on this topic like this, and then we're able to go back and reference it right in the book. This is what has happened. We've been placed into a position of neutrality, and we wake up safe and protected. You know, we know that we're safe and protected from alcohol. You know, wow. And this is part of the miracle life. We don't know when it happened or how it happened, but we do know why, because of God, and because we learn how to connect with Him and trust Him. Yeah, wow, this is incredible.
Great. Yes. That's the promises are amazing, aren't they? When we just follow the directions, God delivers on his promises. It's a miracle. And
I wonder, Clyde. I wonder, Clyde, with that. I wake up with untreated alcoholism. Who started that bullshit? You know,
mhm.
because I don't wake up with untreated alcoholism. I wake up living in step 6 and 7. You know, I'm ready. You know, I'm entirely ready to have God help me with the course of the day. I don't wake up with untreated alcoholism. I wake up ready to accept treatment.
Yeah.
Ready to accept help. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is in fact a miracle. That's exactly what it says in the book. It just comes without any thought or effort on our part. Says it just comes. That is the miracle of it. So if you want to believe in miracles, just look at all of us in this group and throughout the world in Alcoholics Anonymous, that the drink problem has been removed. It doesn't exist for us. That is a miracle. There's millions and millions of us miracles. Thank you, God. Hi, Emily. Come on in.
Hey, Clyde, thanks for having this meeting. Emily, Grateful Alcoholic. I'm trying to think back when that kind of ease was lifted. And I remember a year into sobriety going to my best friend's 40th, like a surprise party. He was out of town at a hotel and just being around everything. And it wasn't like a problem. And I'm so grateful for that. And when you're here, like, I'm the problem. I have Emilyism. Alcoholism plus Emilyism is not a good combo. So the alcohol is not an issue, but then I have to deal with my brain. And as long as I'm like working the program, the morning routine, coming to meetings and working with my sponsor, then that ease, that's where it's, if I'm fit spiritually, working the program, then I can be okay. And I have the tools that when something does come up, contact with other fellows and my sponsor when I have trips like that to talk it out so that I'm not put in a funky situation that I'm either, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, those sorts of things. And so with the steps, that's really been amazing. And it's not really the alcohol that, if it's sitting there, is not a problem today. And it's all from the neck up. But thanks, Clyde. Thanks for having this meeting.
Thank you, Emily, for sharing with us.
Clyde,
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb on this, right? But I think that most of us, because this is my experience, when I was waking up and asking God to help me to not drink, right? When I was waking up and felt like something was missing, that's untreated alcoholism. Well, something was missing, and I wasn't sure how I was going to make it through the day. That sense of doom, hopelessness, and doom. It was before I had sincerely taken the steps. Wow, when I think about it now, it was before I took the steps. Since I took the steps, and things have changed. My thinking has changed. Yeah, before I took the steps, I used to wake up all screwed up, But accepting the program as it's laid out, that has helped me to change. And I think that most of us, if that's the way that I'm waking up, maybe I didn't take the steps. Let's check the source. Let's listen to who's saying what, and then find out what do they do, what are they actually doing about their recovery. That's why I always put in the chat that gift, that great gift that was given to me. That ain't in the big book. That ain't in the big book. Because I can make up some stuff and it'll sound real good, and I'll have people repeating it and killing people with that bullshit.
Yeah, let me tell you, I'm going to go out on a limb and explain Cousin's experience to you because it matches mine perfectly too. It's at the bottom of page 85. It's the last paragraph of the 10th step. Check this out. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, and it sounds like Cousin has, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. Wow, we've begun to develop this vital sixth sense. So that's what's going on here. That's where we're getting this great guidance, and that's why we're here studying the big book together, staying sober, experiencing the miracle of the problem being removed. It's because we've begun to develop this vital sixth sense, this God consciousness. That's the solution to that is what recovery from alcoholism is. That is the solution. And that's why we're here. Step 11 tells us how to communicate with that higher power. Come on in, Loretta.
Thank you, Clyde. Jonathan, yeah. It's a renewing of the mind. The first time I got sober one time for 2 years, and something drastic, it was just something that was lifted from me. The desire was gone. I could pinpoint the day. However, I didn't have a group to go to. So I didn't know I was an alcoholic. And but 2 years later, something drastic happened that really affected me, and I got angry at God. And then 30 years later, here I am. Now I can say that, my big book is the Bible. And it says to renew your mind. It says it all the time, but it didn't click until now. So going over the steps, as for a person getting up in the morning says, I'm something about, I still got alcohol on my brain. I believe going through the steps is definitely because it's renewing my mind by going through the steps and daily communion, daily giving my bread. Thank you very much for letting me share. Peace out.
Thank you, Loretta. We appreciate you being here. Okay, so I think we're ready to carry on here. And he's going to tell us what to do. So we know what we're going to do tonight. We're going to see how well we carried out the principles, practice the principles of recovered alcoholic today. We're going to answer those questions that were at the top of the page 86. Now we've got God directing our thinking now. And we're going to, as we go through the day today, here's what may happen. It says, in thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may need to make a decision, and we're not quite sure what to do. We may not be able to determine which course to take. So what do? It sounds like a dilemma, doesn't it? Well, it's not. It's an opportunity to do the following. It says here, we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. So let's just stop right there.
I love this.
Yeah, I do too. Because
I love when this happens too. I love when this happens. And I got a card, right? Got a card that I carry in my wallet. I've been carrying it for a while. I made it myself. You gotta show me how. And I often share this with people. And the last time that I renewed it was 12/11/24, so that's not so long ago. And this is what it says. It says, I am selfish, self-centered, dishonest, and afraid. You know? And at that time when I come up on a time of indecision, I always, let me just say, whenever I feel squirrely, right? I feel a little squirrely, or I got that little something tapping me on the shoulder. I can take this out, and this is something I tell people when we go through this. I guarantee that one of these things are trying to come into play. I guarantee it. I'll put everything I got on it. One of these things are trying to come into play: selfishness, self-centeredness, dishonesty, or fear, or anger. One of these things, and that's why I wrote them down. I write them down, and in early recovery, I don't have to so much take them out anymore the way that I used to. But in early recovery, before I would make decisions, going places, straightening out certain stuff. I'm getting ready to go into this place and I'm getting ready to tell a big lie because I'm afraid. I'm trying to clean up something from the past. Even some people have even been with me as I've done things like this, and I have to think, am I going to go in here and be selfish, self-centered? Am I going to start lying? Am I afraid to go in here? Am I going to go in here and get pissed off when I don't hear what I want to hear and stuff like that? So that's why I carry this, and I ask, don't let these things come into play. Let me stay calm and go through whatever I got to go through, and just accept it. Yeah, and I would suggest that anybody just you get a card, take the back of the card and write it down. And I guarantee that when you're feeling squirrely, if you take this card out, one of these things are trying to come into play. Yeah.
Thank you, cousin. Yeah. Great advice.
I'm dumb. I carry this thing around with me. Look how stupid I am. I carry this thing around with me in my pocket. I'm bugged out. Something's wrong with me.
It's a good
I
reminder.
shouldn't have to do that, right? I shouldn't have to do that.
Yes, you should. It's
But
brilliant.
I do anyway.
Yes. We want to stay in touch with our higher power. That's what step 11 is all about. Communicating with our higher power, receiving, we pray only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And that's a good way that cousin has in his wallet there to remind him that, oh yeah, I need to check with my higher power. This reminds me that I'm doing something that is not in accordance with God's will. If it's selfish, dishonest, angry, fearful, inconsiderate, those types of things, now I need to take a break here and check in with my higher power and get on the right path.
Right. It gives me a chance to switch gears. That's right. And yeah, just like it talks about right here. When I face indecision, and I check those, it gives me a chance to rethink and to rethink about how I'm going to approach this person, place, or thing, and do it better. Still may not do it perfectly, but if I think, I'm definitely going to do it better, do it differently,
Yeah. Yeah. Come on in, Matt.
Hey, I'm Matt. I'm an alcoholic, and I just wanted to say regarding what cousin Jonathan shared. I love the card that he carries around. If it's dumb and it works, then it's not dumb. That's all I got to say. Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Whatever it takes to keep us connected with our higher power, to keep us in constant prayer and meditation, improve our conscious contact. That's how cousin improves his conscious contact with God, carrying that reminder around. And that's beautiful.
And it's not like I do that with everything that I do, but with important things, or you could tell when you get that feeling in your stomach or something, or in your mind, or you're second guessing something, I'll stop and I'll say, what's going on? And every time, either I'm afraid, I'm getting ready to lie, I'm getting ready to want things my way. That's the self-centeredness. Or I just don't want to share something or something. That's the selfishness. It's one of those things all the time. Or anger, or I'm pissed off. It's always. Could anybody tell me what else it could be? I think Bill nailed it. Selfishness, self-centeredness, dishonesty, fear, and anger. I think he nailed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sure did. Okay, so here's the good news. It says we're often surprised how the right answers come after we've tried this for a while. So what used to, at the top of page 87, he goes on and says, what used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Wow, that's good. I like that. And it says, being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. So I don't have this perfect line of communication with God, crystal clear. God's message to me is always spot on and I understand it perfectly. That's not the case at all. It's not probable. And here's what could happen. Might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. And that happens from time to time, if I'm being honest. I've made some mistakes and looking at things after the fact, and it's like, whoa, that was the wrong decision. And that's okay, that happens. God didn't make me perfect. Imagine that. I still make mistakes. I'm a human being. Imagine that. But here's the good news. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the point of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. So it does get better. The more I practice this, the more I do this, the better I get at being on that point of inspiration, getting clear guidance from my higher power. So I just need to keep practicing. Keep practicing. It's a lifetime matter, remember? It should continue for a lifetime. It's not an overnight matter. It's what he told us right in the beginning of step 10.
Mm-hmm.
So does everyone here do these things? I mean, these are the directions for us to live our lives. This is our design for living. This is what we do day in and day out. Does everyone here, is this how you get guidance from your higher power? Yeah, because he's telling us how to do it. Yeah.
Hey, Clyde. Now everyone knows that we actually have a meeting. It's an On Awakening meeting. That's at 6 a.m. in our main room, where we read On Awakening and take it as instructions each day. And I have a personal experience with this, actually, because when I first made it back, I was going to a meeting. It was at 6 in the morning, and they would read On Awakening. And I was attending a few other meetings too, but people, when we would read how it works, the preamble, and some other readings, even reading the big book and living sober and stuff, some literature meetings, and I just wasn't getting it. I just wasn't getting it. But I was going to this particular meeting at 6 a.m. And when they read this, that was kind of like something, something clicked in me. And it because it started with the beginning of the day, and that's where I was having the most trouble. That's where I was having the most trouble, waking up and not thinking about drinking, and stuff like that. And so when they read this, it means a lot to me, and it stuck with me, and I've always wanted to be a part of and stay a part of people who knew about this, and this has sometimes been overlooked in the big book. I think it's overlooked a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the important thing with these steps 10, 11, and 12 is it goes way beyond, this is all action based. We don't just read these words and say, okay, got it. We actually do, we take the action and we do what we're reading here. So we have the experience. It's an experience, it's action and experience that we're doing here. We're not just reading about it. That's the important thing, to live it out. Loretta?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was during the course of my drinking career, I did get a couple of DUIs and was told to go to these AA meetings. They didn't have Zoom. This was before the pandemic, so I would go to the brick and mortar, and they didn't go through intense what you guys do here in the zoo group. None of that was there. Didn't go through the big book. There was nothing about, and I did get a sponsor once, and at that time I just wasn't ready. I couldn't do step 4 because I had a blockage, and I couldn't write my personal feelings down, and so that didn't work out. But now at this time, these meetings, there is so much that is offered in the zoo crew, the workshops, the daily meetings. I mean, there is, for me, there, I got it, man. And I think I can speak for the rest of us here, is that we got it. As long as we follow directions, we're on the good. And the daily inspiration that we get from our higher power to do the right thing, as long as we keep our side of the street clean, we're good to go. Thank you very much for letting me share.
Thank you, Loretta. What do you think, Cousin?
That's what's up, Mama Bear. and I just wanna read how I began to hear this, you know, in early recovery and why it started to mean so much, because this is how I heard it, man. On awakening, I need to consider, I need to think about the 24 hours ahead. I need to consider my plans for the day. Before I begin, I should ask God to direct my thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, I can employ my mental faculties with assurance. For after all, God gave me brains to use. My thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when my thinking is cleared of wrong motives. In thinking about my day, I may face indecision. I may not be able to determine which course to take. Here, I'm going to ask God for inspiration and intuitive thought, or to help me to make a decision. I'm going to learn how to relax and take it easy and not struggle anymore. I will be surprised how the right answer will come if I try this for a while. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration shall gradually become a working part of my mind. I know that I'm still inexperienced and I've just made conscious contact with God. So it's not probable that I'm going to be inspired at all times. And I might pay for this presumption with all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. I find that my thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration I have come to rely upon.
Wow.
That makes sense to me.
Beautiful.
Mm.
What a difference. Then it becomes real for me to apply and experience it. Just wow, Cousin. Thank you for doing that. Everybody get that?
There's certain parts,
Hey,
parts of that
Clyde,
book that I read like that.
Clyde or cousin Jonathan, would you mind going a little bit more into depth where it says being still sorry, the dog's on the computer. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that sentence for me,
Yes,
please?
yes, I can. That can work two ways. Being still inexperienced, meaning that I don't know everything, right? And I've just made conscious contact with God. Now that could mean in the morning, or that could mean as a new person, just getting back in touch with a higher power or getting to know a higher power. So that could have two meanings actually. You get it?
Yes.
And yeah. So it's quite it's that simple. Yeah, being still inexperienced. I'm still inexperienced, and I love God,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I'm still inexperienced. I'm still learning. I still know very little. That's what we're admitting that we know very little still. You know,
Yeah.
and you could even word it like that. Still knowing very little, and having just made conscious contact with my higher power. And like I said, it could be two ways. It could be somebody who's newly getting in touch with their higher power, or someone just on awakening, getting in touch, like me. I feel like, when I wake up, I'm making conscious contact with God. I wake up safe and protected by him. Hopefully that makes sense. What do you think of that, Clyde?
Yeah, I'm just looking up the definition of inexperienced. It's having little knowledge or experience. So we realize we know only a little. Bill tells us that in A Vision for You.
Yeah.
And so that's what it means. We can always learn more. God is infinite. He's way beyond our pay grade, way beyond our level, our capacity to understand. He reveals to us what we can handle as we can handle it. It will never be, an expert. We're relying on him. And so it's just where there's always more. We realize we know only a little. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Okay. Yeah, and I just love the way that Cousin personalizes these things. And by the way, what Loretta was talking about is, this is a big book study. All of our meetings are our big book, and Joe and Charlie, and it's a study, not a reading. So we go into detail, line by line, word by word, paragraph by paragraph, and really get into the deeper meaning and really get to the message and cover it in detail. So God reveals things to us when we do this. We're not just trying to race through the book and read for the sake of getting through the book. That's a waste of time. We're here to study and learn so we can better apply these tools to our lives and get in better alignment with God's will for us. This is how he does it for us when we take our time and study together as a group.
Yeah, and that's why if listen, if we're reading something and something strikes you, please raise your hand and let us know, because the big book is open for interpretation. By the way, especially these parts of the book when we're talking about a high power and these kind of instructions, we're open for interpretation. What's going on with you? What are you getting out of it? And stuff like that. So we encourage you, raise your hand. If a thought comes to your mind as we're reading something, wow, raise your hand and let us know. We want to hear that. That's all a part of this. That's what makes this even more exciting. Let's hear your take on what we're reading. Right, Clyde?
That's right. That's right. So speaking of which, Matt has his hand up. Come on in, Matt.
Hey, I'm still Matt. I'm still an alcoholic. And what I take from this sentence, because it's 3 lines, it's not a super short sentence, but there's a lot packed in there. That what's standing out to me right now is the end of that line, right? We are not going to be, it's not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times, right? And inspired means, we know what inspired can feel like, right? When it's like, oh, wow, I just have all the answers right at my fingertips, right? Like, when you've really got that flow going, right? And what I love about the way that this is written is that it's to be reassuring that that's not always going to be the case, and that's okay, right? There are going to be times when we have to work harder to achieve that inspiration. And what I take from it as well is inspired, or inspiration has the same root as respiration, right? So breathing. So if you're not sure that you're feeling inspired, the best thing you can do is take a deep breath, right? And it's likely that that pause will allow that inspiration to flow more freely. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Matt. Whoops. Yeah, thanks for sharing with us. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and, oh, hold on. James?
Yeah, I'll call it name James, Cowboy, Mustang, whatever you want to call me. Just don't ever call me by my name. Or David Allen Code thing for you. But yeah, inspiration comes from our higher power. He knows everything. He's the one that created us, and all of that. Long and short, that we have to work with another alcoholic. One of the very, 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 very first things I ever learned coming into AA is that I got thinking. My thinking is messed up, or what have you. And whenever I think that I have that I can do something on my own, or that my thoughts are right, or what have you, then I have to talk to somebody else. I have to consult my wife. I have to consult my mother-in-law, my brother. I have to consult my sponsor, friends in the program, my higher power. I have to reach out. I have to talk to people, long and short. But yeah, I don't know what's best for me, what have you. And it goes on, we relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We try not to, when we don't get our way, we try our best. You hear all the time, pause, pray, proceed, and halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Long and short, that whenever you get agitated, you need to calm down and take a breath. So I was going to share some more, but I can come back in a little bit.
Okay, thanks, James. Yeah, thanks for sharing with us. And yeah, one of my favorite lines in the big book is where we, on page 68, where we learn how to treat fear by trusting infinite God rather than our finite selves. It says, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us and humbly rely on him, does he enable us to match calamity with serenity. That's the solution for fear right there, is to just do what I think he would have me do. And how do I figure out what I think he'd have me do? Just what we're reading right here. The directions are right here. I pause, take a deep breath, and I ask God. It's like, what do I do here? And then he'll communicate that vital sixth sense is being developed as I practice this. So it works. And I love this next section. Wow. So God's directing our thinking right now. And here's another pointer. And I used to hear Cuzin talk about this all the time, and I thought, nah, that can't be right. Well, believe me, it's in the book for a reason, and it is right, and it does work. Here's what it says. We usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be. Imagine that. So I've asked God to direct my thinking right away when I got up and started my contact with him. And then after I think about my day and make my plans and get guidance from my higher power on how I'm going to, with the actions I'm going to take on that day and what I'm going to do, I ask, hey, God, I want you to direct my thinking. I know you're directing it now, and I want you to direct it all through the day and just show me what the next step is to be as I go through the day. And believe me, it's incredible. I know it sounds like a miracle. That's because it is. This works. I ask God to show me all through the day what my next step is to be, and that I be given whatever I need to take care of such problems. Any problems come up? It's like, God, just direct my thinking, show me the right thought, action, and let's go with that. And it works. What do you think about that, cousin?
You know, I'm reading this paragraph. I want you to read the whole paragraph, and then I'd like to share what we're doing right now and how it lines right up with this paragraph here. Something that me and Clyde have been practicing as a discipline is because I was going too far out in prayer and being too wordy, and I was really getting out of hand, getting lost. I was getting lost, you know, in a lot of stuff, and God told me to keep it simple and to take it back to the basics. And that happened right in this room. We were reading something and it came back to, it was like, get back to the basics, you know? And so the only basic thing that I knew was that that childhood prayer, you know, that like we said, we call the Lord's Prayer. Mama says the disciples' prayer. And it's like I found out that the Lord's Prayer is not for 7-year-old kids anymore. It's for grown adults like us. So I want you to read this paragraph, and then I'm gonna elaborate on how it lines up. Go ahead.
Let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to read the full paragraph. It says, we usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why.
Yes, that last line right there. That I have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it did not work. And now I'm learning how to see why. And in the Lord's Prayer, there's a lot of things that I hadn't realized that me and Clyde have been discussing, and we got some stuff from this reading that we found on Emmett Fox, where it does a good breakdown, and it starts out. The first word is our. When they put that in the prayer, right? It doesn't say mine. It says our Father, right? And then it states, you know, which art in heaven. What is heaven? We know that heaven for anyone is a place of peace and love, peace, love, and unity. And then it goes on to say, holy is his name. When we think about a name, we think about a character or the way of a person. When you mention Clyde's name, you think about how Clyde is, you know, his character, the stuff that he does and the stuff that he says and the way that he acts, right? So holy is the name of, you know, our God. And then it goes on to ask that his will be done. And that's what it's talking about here. It says not to be asking for my own selfish things to happen. And then we ask that it's done on earth as it is done in heaven, where there's unity, peace, and love, you know? And then we get to the giving. And all of this is we and us. It says, give us this day our daily needs, not Jonathan. When that's how I used to pray. And I'm not proud of that, but I didn't know any better. God help me, do this for me, you know, and stuff like that. So it showed me that is give us this day our daily needs and Forgive who? Not just me, forgive us, all of us, for our trespass. And then there's a clause, and the clause is, as I forgive those who trespass against me. Treat me the way that I treat others. Right? And then it asks that you lead who? Not me, us. Not into the way of temptation, that you deliver us from evil. And that's it, you know? And what happened is I was doing all kinds of different prayers because I remember a lot of it. I was getting ready to say no, I don't know nothing. But I remember a lot of them, can recite them and sound real good and get into the hallelujah and have you doing backhand springs. like John Belushi and the Blues Brothers. And God told me to stop doing it. He says, I taught you how to pray. You don't have to figure this out. Our Father, which art in heaven, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. That's it. I don't have to add anything to that or take anything away from it. And I find that it's covering everything that I need. And I'm just finding this out. And the hardest thing for me to do sometimes is to add something to it or take something away from it or do another, this, that, and the next and the other. So I have this discipline where that's the only prayer that I need. And I'll use different parts of it in the course of the day, but it's always right in there. Thy will be done. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive me or forgive us, and so on. It's deep, man. It's just deep. And I'm so enjoying it. I'm so enjoying it. And it's less work. It's actually less work than what I was doing. I was figuring stuff out. I was doing all of these, Psalms and Ecclesiastics and going back in this scripture and that scripture. I was all over the place. And it was taking me all over the place. I had to dumb it down. And it's not easy. It's not easy because I still want to reach out and do things my way. I want to add a little something to it, put a little flair on it or something. And I'm not doing that. Keeping it simple. I say the Lord's Prayer 3 times a day. And if that's not enough, well, it's just not enough. But I know that it is. Ain't that something? Maybe God will tell me to start reaching out and doing a little bit more, a little bit to the left or to the right soon. Maybe he won't, but I'm waiting.
You know what?
That's something that happened to me. That's something that happened to me.
As you're sharing, Cousin, something just occurred to me. This temptation that I'm learning about here is the temptation for me to take my will back and want my will, my way. That's the temptation, self-will instead of God's will. And that deliver me from evil is that selfishness, that dishonesty, that self-seeking, frightened, inconsiderate anger, those types of things. That's the evil I need deliverance from and that God does for me. Now that you mention it, that's the temptation and the deliverance right there. Thank you for sharing that, Cousin. Wow, that's a powerful prayer, man. Jody, you want to come in and share on this?
Yeah, hi, Jody, alcoholic. I'm gonna tell on myself here a little bit. So we say the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer, and hearing Cousin say it, it just it hit me different. And when I go into the rooms for the meetings and I say the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer, I think I'm saying it out of habit. I'm not saying it because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I believe both of them, but I'm not saying it from a place of belief. It's just, oh, this is something we do, so I'm going to do it. And that just really hit me hard, that I need to pay more attention to my words when I am talking to my higher power, because with me just doing it, I'm being disrespectful. And how can I expect my higher power to do for me and be for me if I'm going to continue being disrespectful? So thanks for letting me come in. That's all I have to say.
And I identify that's exactly what I was doing too, just going with the flow, and like I said, I was doing a lot of extra stuff. I was, and I was really wearing myself out. Come on in, James.
Well, hold on, James. Jocelyn's had her hand up for quite some
Oh,
time.
okay.
Yeah, come on in, Jocelyn. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Jocelyn. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm just getting used to saying hi, and I'm an alcoholic. So they said to get used to talking, so I was just saying hey.
Okay. Well, welcome, Jocelyn. We're glad you're here. Thanks for coming to our big book study. Okay. James, come on in and share with us.
A alcoholic named James Cowboy, whatever else you want to call me. Yeah, long and short, the prayer and meditation, I pray a number of times throughout the day. My favorite prayers is of course the Serenity Prayer. The Serenity Prayer, the third step prayer, and the 11th step prayer, long and short, because it fetched me the 11th step prayer, and also the Knox prayer, because the Knox prayer reminds me that I'm not a bad person, and that even though I was hurt and I hurt others, I'm not a bad person and I am worth it. The 11th step, or St. Francis prayer, reminds me that there's other people out there hurting way worse than I was, and sick and suffering too, and went through things way worse than I ever did. And the only other thing I was going to share really quick too is that for a long period of time I was praying what we call foxhole prayers, praying only for myself, which means then I had to get out of myself and I had to think about others and start praying for other people. That's one reason sponsorship works. That's one reason doing service works. When you get out of yourself and you think about another person, you're doing more, you're actually getting out of your head, and it helps you more than it helps them.
Thank you, James, for sharing with us. So what do you think, cousin? Should we go ahead and read the next paragraph here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's go ahead and continue. We still have time. So here's what he tells us. If circumstances warrant, says, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation, or husband, partner, whoever, spouse, or friends. It says, if the circumstances do warrant, we can ask them to join us in our morning meditation. It says, if we belong to a religious denomination, which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. And then he says, if not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. It says, be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer. So there's a lot in there. We just there was a lot covered right there, and it'd be easy to just brush over and move on, but there's some key information that Bill just shared with us in that paragraph. Yeah, Matt, you want to come in and share?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm still Matt, and I'm still an alcoholic, and yeah, consistency is the key that I have often missed with this section. Actually, not just knowing that it's helpful to have prayer and meditation in the morning and throughout my day, and to build a routine. And so I'll start out, especially at the beginning of the year, I'm making a resolution, right? And early, not early in sobriety, but as I got more time under my belt, I started to think, oh, well, like the AA thing kind of like slips away, and I'll just like keep doing my like religious devotion, and like that'll suffice, right? When what has actually been most helpful is to focus on the like on awakening AA focused prayer and meditation, and that has not actually weakened my like religious devotions, but actually strengthened them. Because it's like we were talking about earlier, it's one thing to just say it as like rote memorized stuff, and another to actually like mean it, right? And that's where it really, the rubber hits the road for me. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, Clyde, you know why I'm cracking up over here, right? When it says, if circumstances warrant, we ask our partner or our family to come and start praying with us, and I've had that experience, and I just actually started doing that with my wife. I'm 4 years sober, and we used to pray together, but I kept going out and drinking, and that became less effective, and she stopped believing in the stuff that I was praying, because I kept going out and drinking and stuff. So, and what happened was, not that long ago, I went to my sponsor and beating on my sponsor about this, that, and next, and blah blah. One of those woes, whoa. Me and my wife, whoa. And you know what he turned and he said to me, and this is about a year ago. And he turned and he said to me, he says, well, if you keep doing what you're doing, I won't be surprised if you call me and tell me that you guys are praying together. Fucking crazy, man. And like 6 months later, I call him up and he said, yo, we're praying together. This program is freaking wacky. And I called Clyde. Clyde's my friend. I called Clyde and I said, hey, Clyde, me and my wife are praying together again, and stuff like that. And the big deal was, I was asking her to pray, and she'd come and come to pray with me, and I blurt out all of this bullshit. and that's who I was. I blurt out all of this bullshit. I know the Bible so well and all of this, that, and next, and it meant nothing. So this time I came and I simply asked her to pray with me, and we prayed the Our Father, and I know she walked away saying like, "What's gotten into this guy? Where's all of the bells and whistles and shit?" And I just put the bells and whistles down, man. Just said, Our Father which art in heaven. and it's working, and we're doing it a couple of days out the week now, regularly, and yeah, it helps. So I had to try it. This is a suggestion that's in the book. It said if circumstances warrant, go ahead and say, hey, you want to pray with me? So, I'm cracking up because this stuff happens. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up,
Yeah. And so some of these set prayers that emphasize the principles we've been discussing include the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer. As you guys heard on page 63 in the big book, there's this thing called the third step prayer. And then there's the 7th step prayer on page 76. And then in the 12 and 12 on page 99, there's the St. Francis prayer. So there's lots of prayers that we can use that emphasize the principles we've been discussing. So we have a lot of choices in any other prayer. The Knots prayer, I heard somebody say. Any prayer that connects you with your higher power, where you're communicating with your higher power and getting good, sound guidance on the next right, selfless thing, that's a good prayer for you. And so, you know, we're just whatever works for you is the right prayer system for you. It's all about, you know, how you relate to the guidance from your higher power to do the next right thing. So
I'd like to ask a question, Clyde, about this right here. Is there anyone here that is interested in doing this? That's what's in the first line. You want to do it, you're interested in doing it, or are you doing it? Or is this something that you aspire for? To be able to pray with your spouse? If you're doing it already? If it's something that you aspire for in the future or anything like that? I'd like to get some feedback on that.
yeah, come on in, Kent.
First I want to thank you for this because this is my first time here, and I'm 46 days sober now. And when I was drinking, I lost my faith, and I got it back through rehabilitation treatment, whatever you want to call it. So I am praying every day, but after going through this, I'm seeing to only like halfway right. So I know now, but I'm still asking for them to take the obsession away. And I don't know if it's worked or not, because I don't have any cravings or anything, but I'm not going to test it by doing research. So I'm just going to assume that it is, or I'm on the pink cloud. As far as what Cousin Jonathan was just asking about the spouse thing, I haven't done it yet, but it had popped into my mind actually today before I even came in here to ask my wife to join in if she was, or and my children too, whoever wanted to do that. So yeah, that's all I got. Thanks.
Great.
Yeah, yo, that's gonna be so cool. And the only thing that I could say is I'm gonna give you my experience, right? Keep it real simple. If you keep it real simple, it's that's what's worked for me. Because when I did it the other way, and you know, that shit was a turn off. I found that it was a turn off, actually. But when I just did the Lord's Prayer and walked away, it seems like, okay, that's cool. We can do this again. But when I started doing all of that jumping around and backhand springs and all of that shit, you know, it just so if you keep it simple, I think that it'll work, man. What do you think, Clyde?
Yeah, keep it simple. That's why that prayer is just so spot on. It's perfect. Look who wrote it. You can't improve on it. No, don't even try. Yeah, come on in, Mama Bear.
Yeah, oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, keep it simple. I gotta keep it simple. I mean, we alcoholics, we tend to want to complicate things, overanalyze things. It was during the course of my drinking career, I thought it would be better if I got a divorce from my husband because of the drinking. Well, it turned out it didn't work. Anyway, he passed away on the in year 22, and that was what, because of the effect that it had on especially my middle son. He really took it hard, and that's what kind of brought me into recovery. Uh, uh, put down that drink and then coming into these rooms. However, if I wish we can't cry, I can't cry over spilled milk, but that would definitely strengthen the family by just a simple Lord's Prayer. Or I call it's the disciples' prayer because Jesus didn't sin. We're the sinners, so it's the disciples' prayer. And but that if I could just keep it simple. But I would have loved to have somehow. But I did make amends with my husband before he died, so that was good. I know where he's at and I know where I'm going. So it's all good. So right now I'm just living a life of amends for the rest of my breathing life. Thank you very much for letting me share. Mama Bear is still an alcoholic. Peace out.
Thank you, Loretta. And yeah, we're going to have Matt will be our last share from the floor today. Matt, what do you think about this?
I'm still mad. I'm still an alcoholic, and this discussion is reminding me of something that it's a practice that I've shared, and it's funny just the way that you can say something to someone, especially if they're close to you, and they'll not listen to it 9 times out of 10, but then you say it a slightly different way, or they hear it from somebody else, and it's like that's how it actually sinks in. So I'm a pastor, and when I came up with this prayer practice that started with myself, like keep it simple. Music really speaks to my soul, which is why I love the music and sobriety meetings here at the Zoo Crew. And so I took a little practice of anytime I had to like turn on the microwave, usually to reheat my coffee that I had let go cold. So that 30 seconds, I would sing a little 30-second prayer and harmonize with the microwave. It's really dorky, but I made the suggestion to the congregation: if there's something you do multiple times a day, especially if it's something super simple that you can pray while you do it, just watch and see how God uses that. And I didn't know that she took it on, but my wife told me after the fact that she would pray as she was feeding our infant son. Sorry, I'm gonna cry now. And that brought her closer to God and closer to our kids. And yeah, it's amazing how this program works. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you,
Thank
Matt.
you. That's so cool. And I just want, he just reminded me of something that I do, and I say the Our Father while I'm brushing my teeth. It's so cool, Our Father, that's one of the times that I say.
Okay, so yeah, cousin, I think it's thanks everyone for being here. What a great interaction. Good study today. A lot of great shares and covered some really great information about the 11th step. And so I think it's time now to go ahead and have cousin wrap things up for us with our
let me find that part there. Let me find that part there. I'm almost there. Almost there. Almost there. There we go.
Yeah, and I just want to point out and thank cousin Jonathan for the way he breaks things down and keeps it so simple. That it's not easy, but it is simple. And cousin Jonathan has a knack for pointing out the little nuances here and there of what we're studying and how to apply it. And it really is simple. It's not easy, but thank you for sharing your experience with us. We appreciate it, cousin. Uh-oh, let's see. Looks like he might have. Are you still here, cousin? All right, well, I'll pick things up for us. So thank you everyone for coming to the Cousin Jonathan and Clyde the Rocketman Big Book study. We meet every Sunday at 2 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. Eastern in this room. This podcast will be available by this Friday. You can join us on Telegram for updates. And here's what it says on Big Book page 164. It says our book is meant to be suggestive only. It says we realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. So everyone can unmute now. I've been able to unmute the whole time, and we're going to close the meeting by reciting the Lord's Prayer together. So who brought us together for this great big book study?
Our
Our
Father,
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in
as it is
heaven.
in heaven.
Give us this
Give us
day our
this day
daily
our
bread.
daily bread,
Forgive us our
and forgive us our
trespasses,
trespasses,
as we
as
forgive
we
those who
forgive those who
trespass against
trespass
us.
against us.
And lead us not
Lead
into
us not into
temptation,
temptation,
deliver us
but
from
deliver
evil.
us from evil.
Thine is the
Thine
kingdom,
is the
That's the
power,
kingdom,
and the
power,
glory,
power, and
and the
glory,
forever.
forever and
ever.
ever.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Good.
work it.